Hi there, English 112ers, and welcome back. We are actually rounding out the end of the term, and we're getting close to the end. So I want to take a few minutes to kind of go through things that are coming up and let us set some goals for the future. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to make sure was clear are a couple of changes to the syllabus. Now, so what you'll notice if you go down to core assignments is that your community research paper was first, rhetorical situations presentation, and then I swapped out a more extensive collaborative essay with a poetry mosaic to kind of follow in with what we've been doing the last few weeks. So, a couple of you asked questions about the collaborative essay. I I decided that it was a little bit time rich and that there were people who need a little bit more time to like fully process those some things. And so I thought, hey, let's pivot and we'll come back to that in a different class or like revisit it in a different way and into the no worries. These are the only three. So as of right now, there are several people who have already gotten their rhetorical situation presentations, completed everybody from last week, and they've been wonderful so far, y'all. They really loved um, seeing like not only Sabrina Carpenter, but some analysis with Taylor Swift, and then we've had so many great ideas. And so just keep that keep that beautiful creativity flowing. I'm just loving seeing what you guys and so I took some time and updated all of the grades. So if you haven't yet taken time to like look through your grades, please do that this week. If there are any discrepancies or if I missed anything that you feel like you should have score for, please let me know. Um, Moodle is not incredibly user friendly, and so kind of finding everything in Moodle can be a bit of a challenge. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's anybody's fault, but I definitely make sure that you get the score that you deserve. So the last core assessment before our final exam is our poetry mosaic. So you'll have the rhetorical situations kind of functioning in concert with your annotated bibliography, but the poetry mosaic is kind of a thing. So what I want to do is I want to take a second to kind of look through um, poetry mosaic and what is expected of you to do for this week. But then um, I also wanted to kind of let you guys know I got some feedback that there may have been something that happened where the link to the workshop for the poetry and APA practice was missing. Um, if that was the case, I would go ahead and give everybody full credit for that because that was an error. And so I'll just guys, so we will go back. There was a practice paragraph for the mosaic this week. Um, and it seems like some people just didn't see it and they're not going to hold anybody to it if it was a mistake. So we're going to move forward with that. But I will go ahead and give everybody full credit for that. And what I want to make sure that we take a moment to do is I have a flash poetry list, but also like you have some poems that exist in your Norton or that just exist online. So like I am open to lots of different poems. We're going to do a poetry mosaic. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of play with some critical thinking concepts, get ourselves away from the digital space, but then also give you guys the opportunity for like some really like fun creativity. I've been really enjoying seeing what everybody has to say about like Black Walnut Tree and all the poems this week. And so, or the last couple weeks. And so I thought, why not do something that's a little bit more engaging? Um, so I'm going to scroll down to the end, mostly just because I think that it'll make more sense if I did. So you're going to create something called a mosaic. And I gave you a template. The template is on the second page there. But on the bottom, you'll see this is what a mosaic looks like. So you're going to have two things that you're going to have a mosaic, and then you're going to have a paragraph of writing. Okay. So I am fine if you want to do the mosaic digitally. It might just be more fun to do it, like if you print it out and then color it, just because it'll give you something a little bit more relaxing and it'll give you an opportunity to really breathe and read through a poem. But you should always annotate and annotate through your poetry. But what your mosaic is you're going to, on the outside ring, identify a major theme from the poem that you choose. And I put right here Walt Whitman, Dickinson, Eliot, Plath, Sanchez, Baca. But you can go outside of that. So if you want to choose a different poet, that's okay. But try to pick something that is vetted or at least like considered like really high. And so you're going to have themes on the outside here, and then you're going to put in the center your poetry devices, also or like your elements, figurative elements, and then lines from the poem that match those elements and those themes. And so it kind of comes together as this beautiful synthesis of idea. And then to make sure that we are fulfilling the writing requirement for this course, what you will do then is you're going to write a CER response that is one focus paragraph, about a page in length, maybe a little bit less, that talks about the poem and what it's communicating and how you are making an argument about the poem and what it's communicating. So you can have your claim, evidence, and reason. And if you're and you're going to use your poem and a secondary source to practice that skill through annotated bibliography, I have a workshop model here for you. And then I also put an outline analysis paragraph as a guide. And then I've got some models here for you down below. So hopefully that will give you the opportunity to explore the poem deeply without feeling like you have to write a paper. That's kind of what our goal is to give us some multimodality here. Okay. All right. So, in order to do that, I was definitely feeling like some people need a little bit more guidance on poetry. So, I'm going to walk through the poem and give you some ideas of how you can discuss a poem or like walk through it, annotate it, and then kind of derive meaning. So this is not like a specific mosaic, but it is a way to walk through the poem. The mosaic itself is just the way that we're going to explore these ideas. So this is called Is This My Last Ferry Trip? Is this the last time I'll admire the guys in their neon yellow slippers, guiding us to our parking spots before we head up 2 flights to the passenger deck, to the cafeteria where a man in a black derby and black suspenders nods and smiles as he nibbles popcorn? In honor of this maybe last trip to San Juan Island, the last time I hear the somber wail of a horn. It's interesting use of black here, black suspenders, black derby, lots of black. Um, my last ferry trip seems to be like something's ending here. I'm gonna go see if there's anything I can eat, and of course there is. Ivar's clam chowder, just with the nutritionist order. Clam chowder makes me think of thick and buttery and the extra cream, extra butter, tiny potatoes I can easily swallow. I easily swallow 2 spoons. One for me, one for the man otherwise known as my personal representative. Personal representative, that's an interesting way to describe like a partner. When the time comes, you'll help me administer the cocktail that kills. Ooh, that's such interesting cacophony, cocktail that kills. But until then, it's the marvelous Mrs. Mesa, his book about Vronsky and Anna, my book about the journey to the Higgs boson. Our daughter calls to remind us to take pictures of things she can draw. A sprig of rose hips, a clump of service berries, a deer she nicknamed Chewy. Bellies full of chowder. We almost forget one of us is dying. So here, a couple of things kind of come to mind, right? It's like the voice and the diction, right? So it's an informal poem. It's got like very informal diction, but it creates like a somber wail, right? And so it's written in first person to create like a sense of familiarity. So if I was thinking of figurative language, it's like chowder comes to mind, right? That thickness, right? That they can eat. And then it's literal, and then it's about like these very tangible, very like, you know, mundane images. And the sound even is very conversational, stream of consciousness, right? So like as she's moving through these thoughts, very multisyllabic, it's very in jammed, it's very like bouncing between thoughts. And we also have this idea of like being kind of in the moment and disconnected and remembering um, this in, right? And so there are some lines here that would make us think that maybe there is a mundane detail in the things that we love, in the things that are dark. And even though that she's dying, she wants to embrace the bittersweet. So those are just some like possibilities that you can walk through a poem and kind of think through it in all of its different nuances. Um, and I know that was not exactly like the mosaic, but I thought that it might give you guys some ideas as you're walking through the poem, to get you moving through like how to put all those thoughts together. Right. Well, I look forward to seeing more of these wonderful presentations and continuing on in our poetry conversation because next week we start rounding out the end of the term. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and I'll talk to you soon.